Welcome to my channel again. My name is Paul. I'm a realtor practicing in Virginia. And I love the country life, so I decided to move out in the country. I've lived in the rural area for quite a long time. I lived in upstate New York and central Pennsylvania and a number of other places. I love the homesteading life, and today I'm going to talk a bit about a really important quality that homesteaders need. And generally, if you want to be a homesteader, you've probably got this in your psyche already, and it's adaptability. We live in really challenging times, and you look around, what's going on in the world today is the 20th of, or the last day of May in 2022. And as you know, there's so many crazy things going on. And yet, when you look at the history of our country, for example, and there's other examples in other countries, but Virginia, the state that I live in, was part of the history of this country, and there's a lot of pros and cons. People battled, people had arguments, and there's a lot of misrepresentation, strange stories about, the past that was 200 or 300 years ago. But the bottom line is, whoever lived here, the natives who lived here and new people who came here, exploring, trying to have a new life, they had to have this characteristic of adaptability. You have to adjust. You have to be able to adjust to change and be self-reliant and have many different skills. And another really important thing about the rural life and basically simple living is community. People like each other. You know your neighbors. Like, for example, I have a neighbor, I heard he's got 100 guns. I think maybe I saw one of them. But he's got friends who are police. He's incredibly responsible. He's got them all locked up in a special, you hardly ever see him. He does reenactments for history. So he has got some of these old historic guns. They never really get fired with any real bullet. So this is the kind of thing that happens out in this part of the country. Now, adaptability is common throughout the world. I lived in India when I was born. I grew up there, and it's amazing. People living in mountains, and how do you build your house up in the mountains? You can't just dig a foundation, you just have to use rocks. That's all you can do. You put a slate roof on or something. You get these massive trees. You got some nice beams. You just don't have a sawmill, so you just make a big beam over there and cover it with rocks, and that's your house. Adaptability. Like, I went to Thailand one time some years ago, and every year they have this flooding period. Okay, there's a big reservoir there. Okay, they got these little tiki huts. They're sitting on these little stilts, okay? When the dry season comes, they move them all down toward the beach where the water goes lower and lower. And then if you have a big rainstorm and flooding, you just move them all back up there. And then if they get damaged, you just replace them real quickly, just made of bamboo, basically, and rope, and some nails or something. So it's adaptability that has enabled human beings to survive. And I'm a realtor, and I see a lot of homes, and I've seen some really, really big homes, and you just look around, you know that they own a whole lot of things that they don't know how they work. If they have to call somebody, they're going to be very expensive. Like, you know how much plumbers cost these days? Close to $200 an hour. They got to be licensed and all that, and permanent and certified, and this and that and the other thing. The government regulations, man, I tell you, if you know how to do some things for yourself, like I've involved myself in some jobs on my own property where I happen to be living, because all my life when I was younger, I lived singly, and then when I was married, we had this little house and we went under construction for like 5 or 6 years, a total remodel of everything basically, plus a big deck, and then we redid the basement and everything. So when you live in a property and you have to be self-reliant, and we have that, and we're in a challenging time right now, no doubt about it. But if you look around, for example, someday just go to the thrift stores. I met a woman one time a few years ago. She said she's in a state, she buys these estates. She says she got 2 warehouses full of stuff, probably really nice stuff, that she can't sell. Oh, people died, and just the house is full of stuff, and they didn't know what to do with it. They accumulated all their life. And now you think it's even worse now, because as they build these houses so big, and like everybody's got these giant pieces of furniture, and like, oh my God, And adaptability is is a real problem, because there are certain situations. For example, a blackout in the city, in New York City, happened for 4 days, and man, people panic. Oh, okay, oh wow, man, whoa, everything depends on electricity there. You can't ride the subway, can't go in the elevator, can't chill your food, and where are you going to grow food? All the vegetables start rotting, and even in the stores, you can't keep them refrigerated. Then what? You got a whole bunch of people all in one place, and they just freaking out because they can't be adaptable. They have nothing. They got no reserves. That's one of the reasons that I live in the rural area, because it has so much more resources. Whatever. Okay, there's many parts of the country that aren't as beautiful and lush as, say, Virginia or Hawaii or whatever, in California, parts of California. And there's some areas in the country that are just absolutely spectacularly beautiful, but hardly anybody's living there. And that's a fact. You fly over it, you look down there, and man, a mile after mile after mile of forest, and nobody's living there. Boy, in the old days, man, everybody would be trying to find a place to raise and start making their homes and come make some hunting and raising their family and all that stuff. So adaptability is more than just, I talk about the homesteading, and that's important, and I also talk about in reference to real estate, because when you buy a home and you look for a property, you have to adapt the property to you. Many, many people have bought homes that were totally weird when they bought them. I know a guy that I'm going to represent, hopefully, on a piece of property he owns, and he's been doing this all life, renovating farms. He bought this beautiful piece of property for $150,000. They got 15 acres, an old farmhouse, and a bunch of buildings, and now he's got some money, so he's doing the whole thing. But he's like sawing the whole house in half and redoing the foundation, and oh my God, he's just like, I can't believe he's doing that. There's people out there with this kind of money and skills that they can just do whatever they want with the house, So if you know how to maintain your own, and again, it's a psychological, it's an internal thing, okay? Maintain your own calm, maintain your own presence of mind, that you have all available information, like a pilot phrase. Just before you make a plan, just get as much information as you can. Find out what's going on. If you own a property, find out what kind of trees you got there on your property. What kind of plants can you eat on your property? Maybe there's some medicines on your property. Maybe there's a nice well possibility there. Maybe there's a pond possibility. There might be all kinds of other wildlife and wood that you can harvest. And I've represented a woman last year about a piece of property. It would sit idle for a long, long time, and it was just like 45 acres, and a lot of it was just like beautiful, beautiful old forest just growing there quietly, nobody bothering it, flanked by many square miles of just forest and animals patrolling up there. Nobody could live up there. Now that she found some American chestnut trees on them. They're very productive. Oh, they're delicious, man. They're like the $7, $8 a pound sometimes, Just picking them up. Okay, got another pound, another pound, another pound. And they're delicious. And then they're organic. You just got them. You don't have to transport them. You can sell them. And she found out that those trees are rare. And now she's harvesting, and she's going to grow some more, and she can sell the plants. She can sell the new chestnut trees to reforest the American chestnut tree. So adaptability is looking around at the resources that you have, and not just the physical resources, but the internal resources, the talents, the skills, the ability to learn, the friends and family that you might have, and other kinds of resources, so that you can, no matter what the circumstances is. There's a lot of people who I'm 69, and there are a lot of people who don't know what 90-year-olds are like and what they lived through, okay? But there was a time in the 1920s and 30s, okay? The stock market crashed, and they didn't have all these gadgets that we have now, and man, you got to write a letter and hopefully you can afford a few stamps to put it on that letter, and maybe you send it away and won't hear back for a couple of weeks. That's how they did stuff, and they had to be very, very self-reliant. I had a grandfather who died when he was 98. Now, my dad died at 92, and I'm 69. And my dad's dad went through a whole lot of stuff. I mean, maybe he had like the farm worms and And whatever he could do a little carpentry, make some things. He developed, later became a photographer, and he learned how to write. He got some skills. He learned how to write shorthand. He got photography skills, and he could make stuff when he had little tools and workshop and stuff like that. So people in the older generations, they know how to do stuff, and I'm suggesting, I have children in the 30s, and they're going to be growing up. They're young children. I have 7 grandchildren, and 3 are in Thailand. And I hope they learn a whole lot of skills of self-reliance. They know how your car works, why it needs an oil change, how often it does. If you know how things work, we live in an age of great information, and not just, you don't have to read books anymore. You just listen all day while you're washing dishes or whatever, turn off the TV and learn some new skills and learn how things work in your household and learn how your cars work and your technology works so that you understand it. Now, again, I'm making this video and I'm trying to relate the homesteading and the real estate aspect of it, but the basic survival, there's a lot of what they call prepping. People are saying, well, man, like their shelves are getting empty. Well, there's a lot of people who've been thinking about these empty shelves for like 10 or 20 years. And I'm one of them. It took longer than I expected, actually, honestly. But now where I live in a land where there's loads and loads and loads of resources. I was down in Venezuela many years ago in the 90s. And I was told there are people living there. You got to drive like 12 hours by Jeep over this rugged old road with miles and miles of nothing out there in the mountains. And then you get to the little village, and they've been living there just fine for a long time. And if New York went collapsed or whatever and all that, they would do world order, they wouldn't even know. They would just go on with their life. They're adaptable to their particular situation. You see, the modern era of comfort where we get, oh, just everything's so comfortable, and don't worry, man, I moved right here because the grocery store is just a mile away and I won't be shuffling back and forth all the time. So it's always there, and I know where it's there. It's open till 10 p.m. But one day you go there and it's not open. Or one day the electricity's out and they can't run the cash register. Adaptability is a very, very important mental resource, and applies in how you organize your life. If you have a situation, okay, I'll tell you a situation. Some years ago, I rented a mobile home. I'd never lived in one before, and it was a small place. It was on its own lot and everything, and I was there for some time, and everything was good. And my landlord, he knew, he just like, okay, I just own this property, and I'm just going to rent it out, and he just needs someone nice to take care of it, mow the lawn, and everything. Fine. So I did. Now, along the way, it was kind of a funky thing. I looked it up later and I found out, well, it's probably from the 60s and it's been here forever. It's like, I'm the last guy to probably live here. I mean, nobody who else would want to live here. So I had to re-gut it. I did everything. I opened up the whole thing, and I tell you what, it was a pretty interesting situation by the end of it. But what happened was, along the way, I had a plumbing problem, and this landlord had told me, look, I'm not going to fix anything. I mean, I just own this property, and I'm just, if it goes down, I don't care. I'm not going to spend any money on it. It's just, I'd like to tow it away, actually. I said, okay, fine. So in trade, he's like, okay, this landlord said, I kept my rent pretty low and never bothered me. But one day, I had a problem. A plumbing broke. And it was gushing. I heard this sound like, whoosh. Oh crap, what the hell's that? And like I hit the fuse box, okay, I shut the fuse box, and I knew it was water, so I shut the water pump off, And sure enough, the piping had broken under the washing machine, under the trailer, where it was horribly. I went to take a look at it, I go, oh, can't do this. And I started researching a little bit. Okay, they don't make that kind of plumbing anymore, and no plumber in his right mind is going to come and fix your mobile home plumbing. And I can't do it. I don't have the skills. And if it's one leak, there's probably another one that could happen sooner. So I like, okay, shit, I don't want to move. I lived with it for about a year. It's funny. After a while, what happened was I immediately got some rain collection barrels, and I have a situation at that time where there was enough ample coverage. I put it in a couple of strategic places, and I caught a bunch of rain. And what I did is I started looking up filters. I said, okay, well, you know, if water comes to the rain, it's going to run down, and I can use that water for flushing the toilet or washing my dishes. I just boil it up nicely and use it to wash dishes, no problem. So I did, and I developed a whole little system. I got myself a 12-volt water pump. I had an overflow on one of the tanks, and it went into another 55-gallon drum, and then there was another one on the property, and then finally later I ended up buying another one, so I had like over 200 gallons of water when it was full, and I never went that long because I was just living by myself. And you know what happened was, it happened in the summertime, and when at that time I knew somebody who had some property nearby she was kind of vacant on, and like, you know, I was kind of keeping an eye on it for her and checking on it because she wasn't actually living there. And I'd go over there and take my bath or whatever and do some little handyman stuff for her, and, you know, keep an eye on the property, and then take my bath and come back home. And then in the summertime, there's streams around there, and I would go down there and bathe in the stream, or I went to the public pool sometimes, or where they have a nice shower there, or I went to a state park or something like that. So I managed, in the worst case scenario, I would just heat up some hot water and I'd take a bath, you know, with, you know, fine. I lived that way for a long time because at the time the option of moving was just out of the question. You know, it's like, oh my God. And then it started getting toward the winter, and I said, what the hell am I going to do? But what happened is I ended up developing this little system where what happened was I had a bucket of water underneath the sink because I didn't have any more water coming out of the tap. So I had this big bin under the water. I held about 20 gallons underneath there. And I hooked up this little pump to a battery, and, you know, I got the spray and everything was fine. Like, okay, that works. But then after a while I realized, well, it's almost a little more complicated. I need the battery for something else. So I just said every time I just need to wash the dishes, I just take this scoop over here. It's right near me, and I just go down, and saves a lot of time. I don't need that pump. I just scoop it up and put it in the sink, you know. And I wash my dishes that way, you know. For the hot water, I boil some water. I get this nice little pan, I heat up a bunch of water, it got nice and hot, and I put it in cleans all the silverware. All that hot water just cleans everything quickly. Do the quick wash, rinse them out with some cold water, let them dry, you know, bing and a boom, about done by myself. So again, the whole theme of what I'm trying to say here tonight is just the adaptability that we have as human beings. You never know what challenges that you can overcome and what you can deal with to survive, and not just survive, but to thrive. I mean, there are people, like I said, in many parts of the world, they're just living this sort of primitive life, but the culture has lived that way for thousands of years sometimes, like in China, the way they raise their rice, or Vietnam, or Asia, or India. They've been having cows for as long as they can possibly remember. The cows do the work. They pick up the dung, they mix it with some straw, that burns it on their fields. Everything's organic. It smells like shit, but it works. If the house gets washed away, then they build another one with mud and bricks or whatever. It's a lot of adaptability is built into us, and I know there's a lot of young people out there, very intelligent people, and people, if you're older and you feel a little less confident about buying a country property, learn some skills, get adaptable, have an open mind, take notes, and get allies. If you don't know how to fix something, maybe someone down the road, you know, can help you with something. You know, they might be a neighbor. Out in the countryside, people who have been living out in the country for a long time know that neighborliness is just a natural thing. I mean, when I moved here, Virginia, years ago, I started noticing I'd drive down the road and there's a stranger waving at me. I don't know them. And after I realized, this is like, well, that's what they do around here. Hey, how you doing? Whatever, how you doing? And, you know, they know the Jeep thing. Well, it's not the Jeep thing. It's the Virginia thing. Trust me, because everybody with the pickup truck, it doesn't have to be a Jeep. They're still waving at you. Even on the side of the road, people pass some country house, some little farmhouse on the country. They're sitting on the porch and they go, hey, wave to the passerby. Like, nice to see you. First car, last couple of minutes, you know. So, again, I want to be encouraging to people, just be very, very enterprising and serious and sober about your approach to calculating the strange times that we're in. Okay, we all know, the Americans here, probably people listen to us, our houses are full of things we don't need. I grew up in a poor country. I grew up in India, and I've been to Thailand and so on. And you want to see poverty? Okay, go see poverty where a 2-year-old is living on a train station and he walks up and starts begging from the time he's 2 years old. That's poverty. In America, man, there is so much waste. The landfills are full of stuff they're just throwing away. Bicycles. I found a guy I knew found a boat at a dump. A boat. Boy, there are people in the world that just absolutely die for a boat because they get fish with it. They can transport their family with it. It's not just the cost of it. It's the utility of it. Okay, so tools. I say guns and butter. Buy the things that are hardware and the tools that you need to adapt and whatever to any circumstance, and then the knowledge, and then the butter stuff is the gravy stuff and whatever. And okay, if you have some extra and you don't feel secure, buy some butter things. Like that's the vacation and that's the soft stuff that you don't really need but like to have, like ice cream or something. But get some tools and be adaptable and have the right attitude, because I encourage people. Many of us have overcome different obstacles, and I've had my own challenges, but I've heard stories that, like, oh my God, I mean, I can't believe the stories that I've heard. Amazing. And I've had a very fortunate life in many, many ways. But we all have this life, and the way to approach it, and the basic lifestyle of homesteading and our home, there's nothing more fundamental than our home and our homestead, and the way that and it's symbolic of our own being and how we adapt and solve our problems within our homestead. If you don't like the way your home is, you can change it around, you see, in the same way with our own being, and have some different attitudes and look at life a little differently, and then you can sometimes navigate yourself through some difficult times. So I appreciate everybody, the feedback. I love hearing from people. And if you need any help and questions about real estate, we have to talk to people. It's a lot of fun. And meanwhile, don't focus on the craziness. Just take a little ride out in the country sometime. It'll really soothe your mind. So thanks again for watching.